All right, so I want to chime in on the election results, the behaviors of some people that didn't like the result of the elections. I want to contrast that to people who were dissatisfied with the 2008 presidential election results. And I just want to cover on some of the issues. I want to talk on the issues for those Hillary supporters who were ready to listen now. I mean, though it didn't seem like you were ready to listen before the election, or even now after the election. There are a lot of them. Don't so again, to make the statement truthful, obviously not all Hillary supporters are like that. There are some that have chose to take the more adult, more rational path on this one. The Amazing Atheist is one of them. TJ, I got to congratulate you on that video. It takes a real adult to actually come out and say this, even though my candidate lost. We're going to have to accept the results and deal with it. And so, I mean, that actually surprised me about TJ. Normally, we're in disagreement with our views on the issues. But I've got to applaud that because that was actually an adult move. All right. But, I want to cover a few other things as well. Okay, and the first thing I want to say is, okay, currently, obviously, Trump's our president-elect. You know what? Come January 20th, he's going to have to put his money where his mouth is. Come inauguration, party's over, and I expect him to actually get up and at least fulfill some of the things he was talking about on the campaign trail, to say the least. All right. And again, I can't reemphasize this, how much, even though he won the election, come inauguration, the party's over. It's time to actually, for him to get to work and do what he promised on that one. So I'm throwing that out there first and foremost on that part. All right. So I'm going to take a quick break here, and I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. All right, so I'm back. One of the big things I heard as an anti-Trump argument is that Trump just doesn't care about the people. Trump doesn't care about you. Trump doesn't care about this. Trump doesn't care about that. Yeah, well, guess what? You're right. He doesn't care about each and everybody, you individually. No. Neither does Hillary. And if you think Hillary does, well, you're sorely mistaken. Unless you know either Trump or Hillary personally, the odds are they probably don't really care too much about you. So get that idea out of your head. The office they were running for, President of the United States, that's the head of the executive branch of the federal government. Guys, the executive branch runs at a federal level. This is for the entire nation. We have 320 million people in this nation? We have how many different cultures all together that are all American cultures within this nation? Can you really say that one person has the capacity to care about each and every one of those 320 million? And all those different cultures? How do you expect somebody who grew up in the same circumstances as Donald Trump to understand somebody even like me, who has lived a large portion of their life in Texas, and, he's pretty much a blue-collar worker? So, I can't put that on Trump. And I certainly don't expect that out of Hillary. All right? And, you shouldn't put that on Hillary or Trump either. Even though I know Hillary likes to come out and talk about how much she cares about everyone, how hip and cool she is sometimes. The fact of the matter is she just doesn't. And I think it's pretty dishonest of her to say that. The same goes for Bernie Sanders, by the way. I know he lost the Democratic primary, not very fairly, but he doesn't care either. He can pretend to care. He can think he's caring, but the fact of the matter is you just can't. Nor is it the federal government's place to really care about individuals. I mean, the closest you can get to a government caring about individuals, caring about people, maybe your local government, and really you shouldn't expect that out of them either. See, there are certain places for government, and there are certain places that government really shouldn't be. And I hate to break it to you, but government is not and should not be in the business of caring for other people. All right, so on the issues of the behaviors, this is a big one I wanted to talk about because I think this compares and contrasts the mentality of the different sides of the issue and certain people's mentality. And I'm taking the 2008 and 2016 elections because both of them had a strong level of dissatisfaction with the results. On the 2008 side, I didn't see any McCain supporters crying because McCain lost. If they did, they obviously did them behind closed doors and didn't post them on the internet. Post videos on the internet of them crying, such as Miley Cyrus or whatever the hell her name is. We saw that from Hillary supporters. And by the way, I think Miley Cyrus shed more tears in that one video than Hillary Clinton will ever shed in her entire life over losing this election. So you can see right off the bat that there is an element on one side of emotionally stunted people. So much so that they cry like children when they don't get their way. Another result, we saw people chanting, "Not my president," in the 2016 elections. Referring to Trump, obviously. Aside from the birther movement, which, by the way, was fueled by some actions that Obama himself committed, aside from the birthers, there wasn't anybody else who sat there and said he wasn't the president. And by the way, I don't consider Barack Obama my president. I don't consider Trump my president. I consider them Barack Obama obviously is the current president of the United States. Trump is the president-elect until Inauguration Day. Once Inauguration Day comes around, Trump takes the position of President of the United States. But I don't consider Barack my president, and I won't consider Trump my president. And by the way, yes, I voted in favor of Trump. For those who want to know, I'm going to be honest to put that out there. But most of the time, I'm voting Libertarian. So, guess what? I get to see my candidates lose elections quite frequently. For those of you who are curious. But I certainly wasn't going to have Hillary win the election if there was something I could do vote-wise to change that. And I certainly was upset with the Libertarian Party's pick this time around of Gary Johnson. But back on the topic. Flag burning. Somebody's going to sit there and say, well, it's their right. That's their right. Well, I'm not arguing that they don't have a right to do it. I think what they're doing, though, when they burn the flag, is incredibly sleazy. It just shows how fucking disloyal to the United States they really are. You see, the anti-Trump people and the Hillary Clinton people, and by the way, this is even before the election results, some anti-Trump, pro-Hillary people were wiping their ass with the American flag, or stomping on the American flag. Sorry, I mean, if that's the way you feel about this country, then guess what? You really shouldn't be in this country. You should find a country that suits your preferences a little bit better than us. Because obviously you don't care about this country enough, you hate this country enough, you probably should leave. And for those who were doing that, burning the flag, just because Donald Trump won, really, you're doing that? You know what? To hell with you. Versus, say, the Tea Party in 2008, 2009. Guess what? They proudly waved the flag even though the person they didn't want in office was in office. So it shows you that one side, no matter who wins the election, still loves this country. In fact, maybe they didn't want this person in office because they love this country. And on the other side, either people are so juvenile that they'll go to a hate relationship with this country when their person wins, when their person loses, or somebody they don't like wins, but, will be all right with a flag, kind of, if their person, if they get their way. So it's a childish temper tantrum. Either that or they just hate this country all around, and they want somebody in there intentionally to destroy this country. Another behavior I see. You see from the pro-Hillary side and the anti-Trump side is the rioting, looting, stuff of that nature. I didn't see that in 2008 from people who were upset that Barack Obama won the election. What I did see it from is from people who were pro-Hillary or anti-Trump in 2016 after the results. In fact, you saw the riots even before then. You say that's freedom of speech, but it's really not, or right to peacefully assemble. But throwing a brick through a store window, or lighting a car on fire, or attacking other people who disagree with you physically, is not freedom of speech. It's not the right to peacefully assemble. In fact, that actually goes against the values of freedom of speech and the right to peacefully assemble. Keyword, peaceably assemble. In fact, some of those riots, assaulting other people who disagree with you, who were pro-Trump, that happened even before the election. And who can forget some of these anti-Trump supporters, some of these pro-Hillary supporters, other SJWs who went to try to shut down speaking events from either Trump or, the incident in DePaul where Milo Yiannopoulos, his speaking event eventually got shut down by BLM. Again, not freedom of speech, guys. That's actually the opposite. You're violating other people's right to freedom of speech. And that just is what it is. So, as you can tell, there is one side who engages in one form of behavior and another side that engages in another form of behavior. So there's differences there. What can I say? On name calling. Now, this one, name calling and character attacks, well, this one I can see comes from both sides. You get the people who were upset with the 2008 election results and, started, and were upset that Barack Obama was in office, called him a socialist because, he had socialist policies. Well, you can kind of see how that's valid. And, of course, with the whole Trump side, Hillary's camp, MSM, and anti-Trump protesters calling Trump a racist, misogynist, you name it, without any real evidence that he's actually racist. Same for calling his supporters racist, misogynist, sexist, that sort of thing. We see is that their character attacks really weren't valid. There were character attacks that were moving away from the actual issues. And by the way, those people who were upset with the 2008 election results that were calling Obama a socialist, well, the mainstream media had some of their own character attacks for those people. They called them racist by simply saying that the word socialist is code word for the N-word, which wasn't true. Albeit, so there you see the two different types of name calling that went around in this debate. Moving on to different countries. I heard Canada's immigration website got crashed. What was it, election night or the night after the election or something like that? Well, you'll notice that one side tends to want to move to Canada or Europe or something like that after an election. Whereas the other side, they generally don't. They'll stay here in the U.S. and continue to work to do whatever they can to protect their values here in the U.S. Call me crazy. I could be wrong on this one too, but generally those who were more dissatisfied with Obama winning the election in 2008, generally moving to Europe or Canada wouldn't make much sense. And please, if somebody on the more right-leaning side said they were going to move to Canada, because either Barack Obama got elected or if Hillary gotten elected, please let me know, because that person's an absolute fucking moron. Well, I can understand this more from the more left-leaning crowd, because Canada and Europe are much more left-leaning than the U.S. But here's what I got to say at that point. If you guys like the way things are running in Canada or Europe much better than the U.S., perhaps it's time to pack your bags and just move there. I kind of like more the U.S. way of doing things than the European or Canadian way of doing things. That's just me, So it makes more sense for me to stay here in the U.S. And it makes more sense for you guys just to migrate to those countries that, you think are doing things so much better than us. Right? So just don't forget, when you get there, turn your passport into the nearest consulate and renounce your citizenship, and don't let the door hit you in the ass. All right. So you can see the difference in behaviors of those who were dissatisfied with the election results. Next topic. Another very important aspect to cover in this equation is how each side reacted when they were pleased with the election results. Now, before you tell me, well, you're talking about apples and oranges, if you don't think there's a lot of overlap between the people who were displeased with the 2016 results and pleased with the 2008 results versus the people who were displeased with the 2008 results but pleased with the 2016 results, you're smoking dope. Sorry. There is major overlap. You know, and again, obviously, I'm being very general with this. Because I remember after the 2008 election, it seemed like just about every time I had something negative to say about Obama and his policies, 2009-ish, 2010-ish, it seemed like I would get, well, he's your president, And I heard the clip on the Dr. Savage show where a caller called in to tell Dr. Savage that he's your president, which, seems to say, tell me that, you can't even criticize him because he's your president. But these very same people now chant not my president. They riot. They have everything negative to say about it. Whereas the people who were pleased with the 2016 results but not pleased with the 2008 results, I see more of those people don't go around saying, well, Trump's your president-elect now. You can't talk about him like that. And come inauguration, he's your president. You can't criticize him. So you see the differences in mentalities here. You see the people who were more displeased with the 2016 results and less displeased, actually more pleased with the 2008 results. In that respect, they seem to be more totalitarian. Not only are they piss poor losers, but they're sore winners too. They're piss poor winners too. These people are, to take a phrase that Lacey Green used, fascism. No, it's kind of the opposite. It seems like whenever you people win and get power, you guys immediately start acting like fucking fascists. Not the other way around. Oh, and again, when you saw the 2008 election results, there were people breaking down, crying, tears of joy. Oh, Obama won! They acted like the clouds parted, and God stepped down and blessed this earth. So you can also see the mentality they have, the adulation they have for their leaders. You see a more collectivist mentality out of them. You're dealing with people who generally have a harder time functioning as individuals. That's telling. I'm sure you have people that were real happy Trump won, but I don't think any of them were breaking down into tears. Oh, life's going to be perfect now. And Trump's going to pay for my car. He's going to pay my bills. So you see the differences in mentality there. I just wanted to throw this out again, because these differences in both the behaviors of those who were pleased and displeased with the election results and whatnot, there is a pattern here with their behaviors that I've noticed. And again, I've been very general with this. All right, so on the issues, this should be on everyone's mind. Personally, I think, when you're coming to vote for somebody in office, you know, where they stand on the issues is a pretty big deal. I noticed a lot of Hillary supporters either didn't want to speak about the issues at all or were in direct opposition to me on the issues. So I can't speak for all Trump supporters. I don't know where all of them stand on the issues. I can speculate. But what I'm going to deal with, is just stuff I've read on both Hillary's platform and Trump's platform. How many pro-Hillary, anti-Trump people went on both Trump's and Hillary's website and actually looked at their platform and their positions on the issues? I'm still waiting. Me, I'm going to speak for myself on this one. Obviously, y'all seen my previous videos, or if you haven't, you can at least see the rack up there. I'm a pretty big Second Amendment guy. Hey, that's how I see it on the issue. Hillary, not so much. Donald Trump seems to be more in favor of it. One of the things Hillary Clinton talked about on her website was the Charleston loophole and how she was going to close that Charleston loophole. Well, that Charleston loophole was a provision to a bill her husband signed in law that she ardently supported. And basically what the provision of the bill was that once the NICS system comes up online, National Instant Check System comes up online for firearm purchases, they will have 3 days at most to either approve the sale, find something that's a prohibiting factor to the person making the firearms purchase, or let the sale pass. After 3 days, you can't find a prohibiting factor, you let the sale pass. And quite frankly, it's kind of funny how we take the guilty until proven innocent with the background check system to exercise what's supposed to be a constitutionally protected right, but, it's neither here nor there. It seems like a lot of people who are pro-Second Amendment are willing to let the current system stay, as opposed to demand its repeal. So here's an example of Hillary reneging on this, and this is a big reason why I'm not even concerned about hearing an idea for a new restriction, because it's always going to be the same. There's always going to be another idea for a restriction, and eventually we're going to restrict our right to own private firearm ownership out of existence. Trump seems to be more pro-freedom. He endorses a national reciprocity. This is coming off his platform. That's something I'm down with. I can get a driver's license in Texas and drive in California, no problem. I can get a license to carry in Texas, and there are only certain states I can actually carry in outside of Texas. You see where the issue is? You see where this is kind of lopsided here? So I support that. Hillary Clinton is in favor of the assault weapons ban, whereas according to Trump's platform, he is against that. At least judging from it. And if you think I'm in favor of something like the assault weapons ban, you obviously don't know me too well. I happen to like my AR-15s. I happen to love shooting them. We already set the rules back in 1934, and then then in 68, and then in 86 of what guns we're going to have as guns that somebody could come in and purchase the very same day and walk out with, versus the ones that take a little bit of extra time, effort, and money to get, versus the ones that are completely prohibited from private possession all around. I'm tired of seeing the goalposts moved on me, and a lot of us that are pro Second Amendment really are tired of seeing. Hillary Clinton wants to do away with the PLCAA, which, those of you who don't know what that is, basically it says FFLs, if you followed all the laws and all the federal safety regulations, and you've done it right, if somebody uses your product, either negligently or criminally, after you followed all the rules in making the trade, we're not going to let these junk lawsuits come at you. One of the tactics of the gun controllers, because if they can't get their way one way, the honest way, they'll do it in an underhanded way, is they're going to try to sue the FFLs out of business. They're going to make business so costly that FFLs just won't operate anymore. Or at least not sell firearms to private individuals anymore. So that is their tactic. And their goal isn't necessarily to win these lawsuits. Their goal is just to get firearms manufacturers to spend more money on legal defenses and to drive them out that way. Hillary Clinton wants to do away with that, and she dishonestly claims that it protects them against any form of lawsuit, which is not true. If they did act in a criminal or negligent way, they would still be, under the PLCAA, able to be sued. You know? So Hillary Clinton's being very dishonest about what the PLCAA does. Trump, on the other hand, has no intentions on repealing that. At least not according to his platform. Now, Trump does believe, according to his platform, that people should have the freedom to own whatever firearm they want and be able to carry whatever firearm that they want as long as they're responsible adults. Who has a problem with that? I know I certainly don't. Trump supports concealed carry by servicemen on military bases. You know? And that's kind of the ironic thing, you know, because gun controllers say, well, only the police and military should have firearms, yet, and they have no problem with that, but, you know, yet when there's a bill that allows servicemen to carry on a military installation if they have their CHL, all of a sudden now they're up in arms about that. Funny how that works. So, you can kind of see where Hillary and Trump sits on the issues, and you can kind of understand why me personally would be supporting Trump, right? But other than that, you want more details on it, I've done other videos on this issue, so I'm not going to keep on the firearm issue. On the energy issues and climate change, man-made climate change, well, Hillary seems to be a big believer in man-made climate change, which tends to, one, cost taxpayers more money to send to entities that do research on this, you know, basically wasting our money, on this, research, and at the same time, policies come out of this that tend to, how do I put this? Well, be detrimental in our quest for energy and independence. Trump, on the other hand, on his platform, wants to make us more energy independent. He wants to get us not so dependent on OPEC nations. So, you see how that works. So, again, another reason why I would be more in favor of Trump over, say, Hillary. On voting, well, looking at Hillary Clinton's platform, she made the claim that she wants to do away with policies that make it harder for women, minorities, and elderly to vote. She says that we should make voting easier, not harder. But those policies, she claims, that make it harder for women, minorities, and elders to vote and all that, well, she never said what they were. So the only thing I can go off of is what her party has been opposed to in the past when it comes to voting, and that's voter ID laws. In many states, they expect you to have including my home state, they expect you to have a photo ID when you go in to vote. And that's a good thing. That protects the sanctity of the system. So that way, one person, one vote. You know, you have that ID there to show that you're the person on that voter registration card. You have that ID there, so, to help prevent, say, somebody who shouldn't be voting from voting. Yeah. Imagine that. It helps protect the sanctity of the system. So you can understand why I would be opposed to a repeal of voter ID laws. She wants an auto registration process. You know what? If you can't take your ass to the DMV and get the paperwork and send that in, or you can't go online and register to vote online, well, you really shouldn't be voting. She also wants to, and this is interesting, this is on her platform, she also wants to restore automatically the ability to vote, legal ability to vote to convicted felons. Let that sink in. It's kind of funny because in order to purchase a firearm already, in even the most lax states, you have to have an ID. You have to go in and get a background check done. If you're a felon, oh hell, even certain things, convicted of certain things such as misdemeanor domestic violence, or say you were committed to a mental institution for over 72 hours involuntarily, well, guess what? You can't purchase a firearm. All this going into what is a constitutionally protected right, and Hillary doesn't think that's enough, but yet she wants to do away with voter ID laws. She wants to automatically make sure that all the paperwork's filled out for you, before you go in to vote, without you even having to lift a finger. And then she wants convicted felons to be able to vote. Gee, I wonder why that is. You see, there's a double standard. There's no consistency in their eyes on what a right is. Well, I take that back, because Hillary Clinton doesn't consider private firearm ownership a right. She might say in public that, well, she respects the Second Amendment and she respects the right of people to own firearms, but she's just a fucking liar and a hypocrite. So why would I vote for her, given that position right there? You know, guys, the websites on the issues are still up. You know, if you really care to look at the issues, which you should, you have a problem with what I'm saying, go to their websites and look at their positions on issues. I mean, shoot. You know, they're up there. Again, another reason, just looking at the issue, and those are a few examples of why I would take Trump over Hillary, just on the issues alone. Okay, on the characters of the candidates, I gotta say this probably played the greatest factor. You know, oh, not just the characters, but where they came from. You know, when you talk about Trump, well, you're talking about a successful businessman, no matter which way you put it. Trump was a successful businessman. Yes, he did become a politician the day he ran for office. He became a politician then, no matter how many people want to deny that part. He had accusations of being racist, misogynist, sexist, xenophobic, you name it. And from what I've seen, those accusations have all been baseless. He had accusations that he sexually assaulted women. Funny how none of them came to the surface before. But yet, just around election time, they all came to the surface. You know, and me personally, I have a hard time believing these coming to light mass accusations of sexual assault, sexual harassment, yada, yada, yada. I really do, especially when they come around at a time like election. You know, I kind of find it hard to believe that all these people were sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, raped, and not one of them came forward until everyone came forward at just this one time would be politically inconvenient for that person. No. Gotta say, no. Now, with Hillary, we've seen a career politician who has an organization called the Clinton Foundation, which receives money, you know, from sometimes less than scrupulous sources, you know, such as the Saudi government, you know. So that kind of seems fishy. You had the whole issue with Benghazi, you know, and when Clinton was in the hearing and said, well, what does it matter anymore, you know? What does it matter if it was over a YouTube video or if it was a pre-planned attack? Which, I mean, anybody with a brain who can actually look at the situation and assess it can understand, yes, it does matter whether or not Benghazi happened over just a YouTube video or a pre-planned attack. If it was just simply a YouTube video, which it turned out that was not the case, there might have been some forgiving on the administration's handling the situation because that's a spontaneous thing. But if it was a pre-planned attack, you know, and the Secretary of State had been getting warnings and been seeing SIGACs that crap like this was happening over and over again, well, yes, I mean, then it shows that the Secretary of State was a bit derelict in her duties, or may not be the most qualified person to handle being the president, if that's how she handled the situation in Benghazi as the Secretary of State. So you see what we're getting at here. You've had the whole issue with the emails. Clinton complained about the Russians hacking her and getting the emails to sabotage her. And yet, this whole time, nobody denies the content of what's in those emails. Funny. Funny how that works, you know? There's some pretty damning content in those emails, Hillary. And if you expect us just to ignore the content of those emails and throw that out of our decision-making process, well, you're just living in la la land. And there are supporters who don't think this is an issue. Well, I hate to break it to you, you shouldn't be shocked why they lost. Maybe if you took 5 minutes to think about this, why the content of those emails were an issue, maybe you'd understand a little bit better why your candidate lost this election. I'm just saying and throwing that out there. You know, you take the issue with Bernie Sanders, where she pretty much just, her and the Democratic National Convention pretty much screwed Bernie Sanders over in the primaries in the Democrat elections. You know? Maybe you should look at that. And maybe you should understand that maybe there were some people who supported Bernie that saw that happening and decided, well, you know what? We might not go vote for Trump, but we're definitely not going out to the polls to support you either. You know? May have played a factor there. And yes, somebody's character, when it comes to their honesty, you know, and how much respect they have for the laws, should play a factor. And if people vote for them when it comes time to hold a public office. So, I mean, it seems to me the only character flaws that Trump, well, serious character flaws, I should say, everyone has their character flaws, but the only serious character flaws that I could see with Trump that would cause people to turn their heads away from him were allegations, were baseless allegations. And then when you look at Hillary Clinton, well, hers weren't quite so baseless. I mean, and they came up well before the election. You know, many of them did anyway. You know? All right. So, in conclusion, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to wrap this up with a few messages to a few different demographics and even a few different individuals. First, to those who supported Trump, well, let's just remember why you did. Let's just remember those values. Right? You know, I personally remember how it was like to criticize Obama in 2009. Let's not get like those idiots who sat there and said, he's your president. You can't say anything about him. You have to just blindly follow him because he's your president. Because these very same hypocrites right now are pissing and moaning because their guy didn't get it or their gal didn't get it. You know? Let's not be like them. Let's continue to value freedom, honesty, integrity, stuff like that. To Donald Trump, congratulations, man. But this isn't the end, this is the beginning, and I think you and I both know that. So, we'll see what you can do. And just remember everything you promised on your campaign trail. To Hillary Clinton, I ain't got much to say to you. All right. And last but not least, those who are pro-Hillary and or anti-Trump. For those who are acting like adults about this, keeping their composure, they're being reasonable about that, I appreciate that. It speaks volumes of your character. It really does. So, I mean, I know we're going to disagree on a lot of issues, uh, but at least there is that portion of respect. For those who decided to go out and riot and physically assault people after the election results, yeah, well, guess what? You're not making your point. You're just reinforcing other people's views on you. And I don't think there's really any way I'm going to be able to reason with you. So, at the end of the day, eventually the police are going to deal with you. For those people who are crying and throwing a temper tantrum, breaking their TVs, I saw a lot of videos of people breaking their TVs upon hearing Trump won. Just a suggestion, but perhaps you probably should think about how that helped you out. How did that improve your life? Did smashing your TV all of a sudden make it so Trump lost the election? Or now do you have to clean up the mess from your broken TV and then haul it out to the trash and go buy another one? And I would ask those people who are in favor of Hillary and against Trump, why that would be. Maybe, again, not to say that you can't still, at the end of the day, be pro-Hillary and or anti-Trump. I'm just asking you to take an honest-to-God look at your own opinions and figure out why that would be. Or maybe look at it and understand that you guys aren't the center of the universe. You're just not. I mean, there are other people with other interests. And quite frankly, to some of us, we don't understand why it's somehow your interest to vote for a candidate who, wants to either outright ban these or make it as much of a headache as they can for somebody to own one of these. At least that's some of us in the camp. Some of us don't understand why you got to make our lives at work more difficult, with some of these government regulations. Or maybe why you would want to make our opportunities disappear, with unfair trade agreements like the TTP and NAFTA. And I know Trump said he wasn't going to do away with NAFTA, but what he did say was that he was going to change it and get a better deal for us. So I don't see how you would oppose that. You might not believe he's going to be able to do it. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it or not. I don't know if he'll try even after Inauguration Day. We'll see. But the fact of the matter is that maybe you need to think about your own lives and your own situations a little bit more rationally. Alright? Well, that's all I have, guys. You know what? Y'all want to talk? Doesn't matter what your opinion is. You got the comment bar below. Oh, hell. Post a video response to me. Something. If you want to have a discussion on this issue. Y'all take it easy out there.